I kind of want to get back into a conversation we started. You're from Melbourne. What is your home now? What do you consider your home now?
Home, well, as I said, home is still Melbourne. I live in South Melbourne, just out of the city. And kind of work home is Los Angeles. But I'm really just as comfortable in either place. Though I must say I spent 2 months there at the beginning of this year, and it's probably the best 2 months I can remember spending at home. It just felt so right and so comfortable to be in my home in Melbourne. And I thought, wow, if I could afford to just do this and nothing else, this is where I'd like to be. Having said that, my whole life with touring with rock and roll bands was always about being on the road. You end up in Japan, America, Europe, or wherever. Movies, as you know, here I am in Montreal, you know. We were in New Zealand before this, and before that we're in Namibia doing Mad Max. So I'm also very comfortable with wherever Judy and I happen to be. That's home for us. It's like being home. We don't have children.
What was your favorite place to visit in the last years of your traveling all over the world? Like different, not necessarily where to live, but like to visit. And where would you like to go back again, other than Montreal?
I'd like to go back to Africa, but that was like 3 years ago now.
How was that experience?
Africa's always been such a...
But how's it different from Australia? You know, like...
Got elephants. Rhinoceros. We don't have them. We got kangaroos. I loved Africa because I love animals. You know, I've always been fascinated by elephants, rhinos, you know, lion, all that sort of stuff. And I just always wanted to go there. I mean, as a teenager who didn't grow up watching Tarzan episodes on television and everything. Fascinating. So I was always just intrigued. I always wanted to go there, and I'm so glad I got that opportunity because Mad Max was shot in Namibia, you know, which is right down south of Africa. It used to be part of South Africa. We went to some game lodges and everything like that and got to ride, you know, out on horseback among zebra and giraffe and everything else. And one of the stunt guys' parents had a lodge, and, you know, we were in this lodge playing with 3-day-old lion cubs.
Wow.
And a 3-month-old lion. Went for a walk with that. And just to do that, I said, hey, how many people get to do this? By the way, that's another... You know, you're talking about through lines, you know, and the 90-degree benefit. The benefit for me of doing a movie is that I get to do that on my weekends or something. You know, it was just incredible.
And the people that you meet, too. You meet the people. Totally. What do you learn about that? Because you've been literally all over the world and you met people from all angles, you know, people on top of the food chain, so to speak, people that constantly presented, and people that always work behind the curtains, so to speak. What have you learned? What's your greatest lesson in terms of that in relationships, I guess?
Well, I remember going, you know, I spent 4 years in Lithuania, 6 months out of the year for 4 years. And I was doing second unit directing and stunt coordinating, as well as acting on a very out there series called The New Adventures of Robin Hood. It was actually a Warner Brothers series that Fred Weintraub, I've done a lot of movies with, who's recently passed on. Freddie was the producer of Enter the Dragon. He wanted me to go there and do the second unit, so I did. And my stunt group, I had 12 stunt people, 6 Lithuanians and 6 Russians. And I do remember a time when I left, and I forget why I left. I think I was thinking I was going to actually do a lead in my own series, whatever it was. I mean, the feeling of camaraderie, you know, between those stunt guys and everything, the relationships we had built. And remember that a certain amount of them, especially the Russians, couldn't speak English. But our connecting thing was martial arts, because it was all, even though it was Robin Hood and it's swords and horses, it was still about combat and everything else, and they were all martial artists. But, I mean, there were just tears, you know, the relationship we had, you know. It was genuine love for those people and them for me. And I do remember sort of thinking, when I thought about it, I thought, wow, it just occurred to me how politics and politicians and our leaders can cast such a what's the word? You know, you develop you almost develop not a hate, but a dislike.
Stereotype.
Yeah, for certain rated people, like, you know, Russia, you know, well, the Cold War and blah, 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 you know.
Yeah, if you listen to the news now, a Russian's going to kill you next.
Well, I mean, look at you. You're Russian, aren't you? See
Yeah.
But I just remember thinking what a faceless sort of enemy, you know, is depicted for us, you know, and to go and realize that even regardless of language, we all joked, we interacted, and we just had this incredible just bond that had nothing to do with where they were from or where I was from. That was a big lesson for me, you know, that I could go there and see that. That's, as you would probably know, that's one of the big things about travel, you know, is bringing your realization it is a world community. You know, we are all human beings, you know, albeit there's a lot of aggression from certain walks of life in different parts of the world, but, you know, that's often also due to leadership and everything. I mean, we don't want to even get into politics, but for me, you know, it gets back to, again, the through line of martial arts. That was just, it's like music, you know, unites so many people, you know, so many musicians and songs and people that tour the world and play countries that have no idea the English language or whatever, but still just have this common bond of a love for music, and that's very uniting. And for me, martial arts was the same sort of thing, you know. I mean, I worked in Kazakhstan for 4 months.
Space station, you were trying to fly out to space.
Yeah, that's it.
That's another thing you need to conquer. Let me ask you this question. Is the Earth flat? You're not a flat earther.
Warren, you know, to go to Kazakhstan, the only thing I knew about Kazakhstan was Borat was supposed to be from there, you know. And we're there, you know, in Almaty and one of the main cities and everything, and just to experience the
It's very civilized. It's
there.
not like what Borat represented. Is it?
Well, it depends where you are. In the cities, yes.
true.
But when you get out of the cities, it's like 1,000 years ago. I remember being up in these mountains for 4 days, these snow-capped mountains where Genghis Khan used to roam, you know, with this old gentleman who was in his 80s and his son. And we were doing shooting some references and that for CGI, for, you know, visual effects and everything with eagles. He had 12 eagles and he'd raised them since they were chicks. And he had 2 of them there, and, you know, he's flying these birds around, and I got to, you know, have one on my forearm and everything, and I'm thinking, oh my God, again, who gets to do this? You know, this is where Genghis Khan ran, for God's sakes, you know, with this gentleman that, you know, the way he lived was he'd send the eagles out and hunt foxes and rabbits and everything, and he'd get the pelts and make hats and all sorts of stuff, and the eagle would get the meat. But again, traveling, I mean, who gets to see that, you know? And I still get back to saying that the only reason I'm there is still because of my love for martial arts, you know? It's not a bad thing.